Happy New Year. Welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to drop by your old pals here at What's Your Favorite Movie, the podcast all about favorite films, film fandom, favorite movies and why we love them, etc., etc., etc. My name is Ed South, and thanks for joining us. Welcome to 2018. This show celebrating my favorite films from 2017. It's kind of a best of list. We did it last year, and we're going to do it again. It requires no guest. It's just me and you, folks. The What's Your Favorite Movie studio guest chair is out for its annual cleaning and rotation. So it's just me in the studio tonight. And we will talk about some favorite movies of 2017 in just a moment. But before we do that, let's run down the social media gauntlet. If you want to interact with the show or follow us, the best way to do that is on Twitter at WYF Movie Podcast. Or you can join me on my personal page at Ed South on Twitter. We also have our email address, favemoviepodcast@yahoo.com. And of course, as any good podcast, you can find us on Facebook. We have been away for a while, but we are back, and we want to, again, thank you for sticking with us and finding us and chugging through. 2017, huh? That was a year, wasn't it? It certainly was. And we're getting ready to go into 2018. But before we do, and before I tell you my favorite films from 2017, let's take a quick look at the highest grossing movies of last year. These are the films that made mucho dinero, comprendo, at the box office. And we will do this list. Number 10 was Logan, another X-Men movie, an R-rated X-Men movie. Logan at number 10. Number 9, more superheroes, Justice League with Batman and Wonder Woman. Have not seen that yet. Want to see it. Haven't made it out yet. Oddly enough, it's the only film out this holiday season that my 4-year-old daughter wanted to go to. She didn't want to go see Coco or The Star or anything else, but she really wanted to see Justice League, but we did not make it out. I did not take my 4-year-old daughter to a PG-13 superhero film. Number 8, another film I would not take my daughter to, Despicable Me 3. Number 7, from the Marvel Universe, Thor Ragnarok. Saw it. Enjoyed it. But let me just say real quick. In the trailer for Thor Ragnarok, they show the scene where Thor meets Hulk at that big Coliseum arena thing. And then in the movie, they spend 25 minutes building up to it when everybody knows it's going to be Hulk. I don't know. That's why I don't like trailers too much anymore. Number 6, Stephen King's big screen adaptation of It. Well, it wasn't Stephen King's adaptation. It was somebody else's adaptation, but it had been done before on TV. Now in the theaters, extra scary, It. Number 6 highest grossing movie of 2017. Number 5, Spider-Man Homecoming, where Spider-Man swings into the Marvel Universe from his own universe. And they really did a great job of spicing up the Spider-Man film franchise by bringing him home to Marvel. Great film, Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 4, also from Marvel, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. All 3 of this year's Marvel movies were in the top 10 highest grossing films of the year. Number 3, another superhero movie, Wonder Woman, came in at number 3, making $412.5 million. Saw it. Was pretty good. Pretty good. Number 2, now, I didn't care for this film, but $504 million worth of people did. Beauty and the Beast. It was okay, but I'm a purist. I love the original film, so every little note that was different from the first film just threw me off. Didn't care for it. And the number 1 film of 2017, which was released December 14th, only had 17 and a half days in the box office, still made it to number 1. That's right, Star Wars The Last Jedi with $544 million. I saw the new Star Wars film, and I'm going to have to take a draw on an opinion because We saw it like a couple of days before Christmas. I had full-on holiday prep exhaustion. I think I fell asleep somewhere in the middle briefly, so I didn't understand the second half. So I'll give it another shot when it comes out on the DVD or Netflix. But yeah, I was just tired, so I don't know. But I do know this: there was not enough R2-D2 in the film. And also, Star Wars. When are we going to get the Ewoks back? I think they're due for their time in the spotlight in 2019 for the next film. Star Wars, the Ewoks Strike Back. You guys can use that, and you don't have to pay me. So here's what we're going to do. Not you guys at home, the people that make Star Wars. You know, they listen to this show. We're going to talk about favorite movies of 2017. This is a list I put together every year. It's not my list of what I consider the best films of 2017, because gosh knows I don't see the best films of any given year. I go see what I want to see. These are films that I saw for the first time in 2017, and they are my favorites of those films that I saw. And they're not even the best films necessarily that I saw in 2017. These are my 10 favorites that I want to put on this list and share with you, my podcast family. Oh, so I put them in alphabetical order, and let's just roll through it, and maybe you'll find some new films that you might want to discover in 2018. So the first movie on my list, we'll have to go back to August 20th exactly, and Hollywood lost a legend when Jerry Lewis died at the age of 91 on August 20th, 2017. I have never been a huge Jerry Lewis fan. There's actually two Jerry Lewis movies from the 80s that I grew up watching all the time, Smorgasbord and Hardly Working, which I used to love and watch all the time. But I was interested in catching some Jerry Lewis films, and then he went and passed away. And Turner Classic Movies actually ended up running a whole night of his films, and I recorded all of them and watched them. They showed The Disorderly Orderly and The Errand Boy and King of Comedy, which is kind of a dark comedy that Martin Scorsese made in the 80s. But my favorite of all of them, which is the first film on this list, is The Bellboy from 1960. And this is an insane, absolutely plotless movie where Jerry Lewis plays a guy named Stanley who's a bellboy at the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami Beach, and it's just 72 minutes of just nonstop craziness. It's like they're not really sketches, they're just like vignettes, and it's like tiny little stories that kind of start and stop, and just silly. Some of it's slapstick. There was one scene where he gets up and conducts an orchestra that's not there, but he does it very animated, and you hear the music. It's like experimenting with comedy, so it's like theatrical. It was just really, really cool. He does that in a lot of his movies. Some of his films have a little more of a storyline, like The Disorderly Orderly, where he worked at a mental hospital. There's scenes where he's throwing bedpans all over the place and screaming "lady," but there's also some storyline and plot there. But this one was just crazy. The Bellboy, 1960. I think a lot of his films are going to be bubbling back up. A lot of them got a DVD release after he died, so shouldn't have a hard time finding The Bellboy. Keep an eye on Turner Classic for it. But all the Jerry Lewis films that I've seen so far have been just a delight. And I also liked the poster for The Bellboy. When I looked it up online, the poster says, "He's the silliest in a series of sequences that are even sillier." So that's nutty, right? And also in this movie, in one of the little vignettes, Jerry Lewis plays another character. He plays Jerry Lewis, who checks into the hotel. So it's very, what's the word we're looking for nowadays? Meta. It's very meta. So if you like meta, you might want to meta Jerry Lewis in The Bellboy, 1960. Number 2 on my list, a film called Don't Think Twice. This is from 2016, written and directed by comedian Mike Birbiglia. And this is a comedy drama. It's about a New York City improv troupe, improv comedy. and they're very much like a little family. It establishes that they're all very, very close. In fact, a couple of them are dating, and they all know each other's business, and a few of them live together, and they're just like a little family, and they're all very passionate about their improv comedy, and for the comedy people, the goal, the highlight of their career would be to get a gig on Saturday Night Live, or in this film, it's called This Weekend Live, which is also a very dead-on parody of Saturday Night Live from the little scenes they show. But so one of the guys in the troupe gets gets a gig on This Weekend Live. He becomes a cast member, and it's all about the people left behind, and congratulations, but also I'm jealous as hell. So it's a very interesting character study. I thought really, really fascinating. And, not that I want to say I relate to the plot at all, but I'm in my basement recording a little podcast, and I've worked with people who have gone on to do network television and radio and things like that. So I kind of get it. Happy for you. But at the same time, I'm in my basement playing radio by myself. But anyway, so it's just a really good plot, and it's got a great cast. Keegan-Michael Key is in it. Jillian Jacobs from Community. Mike Birbiglia. Kate Micucci. Even Richard Klein. He played Larry on Three's Company. He pops up. It is called Don't Think Twice. It's funny. It's heartwarming. It'll make you think. And it's streaming on the Netflix. So no reason you can't go see that. Number 3 on my list. Look, I like movies about high school. I'm not sure why I like movies about high school. I didn't like them when I was in high school. I didn't watch movies about high school when I was there. And I don't think my high school experience was necessarily miserable, but it was uneventful. So I think that's why I like seeing movies about high school where things actually happened, because nothing happened when I was there. So number 3 on my list from 2016, The Edge of 17. The Edge of 17 from 2016. And this is about a girl in high school, and there's a couple of storylines going on. It's funny, but it's not too goofy. Her best friend starts dating her brother. She has a crush on a guy at a pet store, and she sends him like a text she didn't mean to send him, and her mom is just horrible and sucks. And it's just a really good combination of like zaniness and also seriousness. And again, just like makes me yearn for the days of the comfort of high school, even though nothing happened to me in high school. Cast includes Haley Steinfeld, who is, what's the deal with her? She was in Pitch Perfect 2 and 3. Also, the great Kira Sedgwick. I love her. She plays Haley's mom. And then Woody Harrelson is a teacher who's mostly humorous. So check that out. I don't have a lot of Hollywood stories because I've never been to Hollywood, but this kind of thing never happens to me. One time I was in a restaurant in Pittsburgh and Woody Harrelson walked in. That doesn't happen. I don't have stories like that, but that's one of them. That's the one. Woody Harrelson walked into the restaurant while I was eating dinner. He hadn't made this movie yet. If he had, I would have stood up and said, "Hey, I enjoyed you in The Edge of 17. Number 4 on my list. I've talked about this movie in somewhat detail on the program before. The Founder from 2016. This is about the creation of McDonald's. I myself enjoy McDonald's lore. I like knowing about McDonald's. I find it fascinating. All like businesses, chains. I find their backstories all interesting. And McDonald's is an interesting one. Interesting so much they made a movie about it. Michael Keaton plays Ray Kroc. There used to be plaques in McDonald's of Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's. And did you ever wonder, why is the founder of McDonald's not named McDonald? Well, there were 2 McDonald brothers, and this is the story of how Ray Kroc partnered with them and then maybe stabbed him in the back later on. You watch and find out. And it's one of those things where you don't know if he's the bad guy or the good guy. It's kind of ambiguous. Is that the right word? Nick Offerman is in this. Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec. He plays one of the McDonald brothers. You got BJ Novak turns up. Laura Dern. Whole bunch of familiar faces. Linda Cardellini is in this. Who's she? She played Velma in the Scooby-Doo movies, in the 2 live-action Scooby-Doo movies. So you can't go wrong with Velma and McDonald's. This was directed by John Lee Hancock, who did The Blind Side and Saving Mr. Banks. So he knows his way around a bio docudrama. The Founder, 2016. It is on Netflix also. So again, no excuse not to, on your way home from work, stop, pick up a Big Mac, a large fry, chocolate shake, go home, fire up The Founder. You've got an evening right there, my friend. You've got an evening, and you are welcome. All right, are you ready for this? Number 5 on my list. Number 5, not a comedy, not a piece of crap movie, not anything silly. I think this was nominated for some Oscars. I forgot to write that down and check, but number 5 on my list from 2016, saw it in the theater in January of last year, Hidden Figures. Man, oh man, was that good. Hidden Figures. That is about, if you don't know, about a group of female African-American mathematicians who played vital roles in the early days of the U.S. space program, NASA. So you get a little history lesson. You find out about these 3 women who played big roles in rockets going into space and all the math and stuff. And also you learn a little bit about our racist history and how terrible we were to African Americans as recently as the 60s. Not that horrible things don't happen now, but this film is like not that far in the past, and some terrible, terrible things go on in this movie. And the thing I liked about it the most, I think, is that it was rated PG. It's not a kid's movie. I mean, you can show it to a kid. It's not a kid's movie, but that's just like a ballsy move in 2016 to make a mature adult film and just let it go out rated PG. And it's just a great movie. You have a great cast with Octavia Spencer, who I adore. She's fantastic. She's great in this. Everybody's great in this. Taraji P. Henson is absolutely unrecognizable. I watched the whole movie and didn't even know it was her. I know I'm going to slaughter her name. Janelle Monáe. She's a singer. She's in this. She's great. Kevin Costner? I don't think I've ever seen a Kevin Costner movie I liked, but there he was, Kevin Costner. And didn't know she was in this when I was going in, but let's take a moment to give a little shout out to Kirsten Dunst. American national treasure, Kirsten Dunst, who plays a nasty, nasty person in this movie. But that doesn't mean you still can't love her. Why? Because she was in a film. The further we go down the timeline away from this particular film, the more and more I love it. 2000s, Bring It On, is an absolute masterpiece of filmmaking right there. If you haven't seen that in a while, go back and revisit it. Man, I love me some Kirsten Dunst and some Bring It On. Also in this movie, Sheldon playing racist Sheldon. So go figure that out. That is Hidden Figures 2016. My gosh, seriously, if you haven't seen that, check it out. I think it's running on HBO right now. And you can get it like in Redbox or something like that. So you should check it out. Show it to your kids. It's a history lesson. It's exciting. It's all the things a movie should be and more. Right? Let's take a break from the list right now. Just a quick break and talk about how you can support this podcast in 2018. We're not going to ask you for money. I'm not going to ask you to sign up for a shaving kit or a cook at home program. I don't like those things. Here's what you can do to support what's your favorite movie in 2018. The most important thing, number 1, is listen to the show. That is literally enough for me. Just listen to the show. We try to have a new show out every 2 weeks, the first and third Wednesday-ish of the month. I'm not going to bust my butt worrying about that specific deadline, but first and third Wednesday is when we try to get a new show out. So just listen. That's all we ask. But if you want to go further, here's another easy thing you can do. Tell someone about the show. Just mention it in conversation casually. You're standing around the water cooler talking about the boss as a real jerk. Hey, by the way, have you listened to What's Your Favorite Movie on iTunes? Great show. So yeah, tell someone. Or you could share the show on social media. You could do that easily. If you do, like if you want to post it on Facebook, we would certainly appreciate it. Put a little write-up so people don't just slide right by it. Like, hey, check out this podcast. It's about movies. This week it was about whatever movie, da-da-da. I think people will stop and read it. Maybe we'll get a couple of clicks that way. Also, you help us by subscribing. Go over to iTunes or whatever app you use and just hit subscribe. That helps us out enormously. If you use iTunes, you can also take it a step further and rate and or review. Just punch the stars, whatever stars you feel, however many you think this 5-star show deserves. Go ahead and tap the stars. If you want to write a little quick review, read some of the other ones, that would be great too. That helps us go higher in the listings when someone is searching for a movie show. You can also follow us on Facebook or Twitter. And then also, like, number 1 or number 2, because I said number 1 was listen, but I would put this as number 2 or 1A. Give us some feedback, positive or negative. We don't care. We just want to know that someone's listening. Just let us know you're listening. Facebook, Twitter, you can leave a message. You can email us at favemoviepodcast@yahoo.com. Even if you just like, hey, heard the show, it was great, or it sucked, whatever, just so that we know you're out there. Let us know if we're doing something good, something bad. We can change it, whatever. If you know me personally, or you know one of the guests on the show personally, just say something to them. Like, hey, good show. Or to me, like, hey, I heard your last show, whatever. All that stuff helps this show a lot in one way or another. And if you know me or one of the guests on the show, shoot them a text or a Facebook message. It's just nice to know that you're out there. That's how you can help support What's Your Favorite Movie in 2018. Now, back to our list. The next movie on my list of favorite films that I saw for the first time in 2017. I posted on Facebook that I had just seen this movie for the first time, and people were mad. People were mad at me. How did you go 30 plus years and not see The Karate Kid, Ed? How did you not see The Karate Kid? Well, I saw it this year and I loved it, and I was sad that I didn't go see it. In fact, when I was in the 5th grade, my friend Casey had a birthday party and they were going to go see The Karate Kid, and I didn't go because I didn't want to see The Karate Kid because it wasn't funny looking. And how much movies have I missed because I held every movie to the standard of Airplane. If it didn't look as good as Airplane, I wasn't interested in it. So I didn't see Karate Kid at Casey's birthday party back in 1984, and then I had to wait all the way to 2017 to see it and say, what have I been missing? I don't need to tell you anything about The Karate Kid because you've all seen it. All I will tell you is I wasted, 33 years with more Elizabeth Shue in my life. I could have had that extra helping of Elizabeth Shue. That doesn't sound good. All these years, I saw the next Karate Kid that came out in 1994. Why did I see that? But I missed the original. And now it's in my list of favorite films that I saw in 2017. The Karate Kid. You know it. I don't need to tell you where to go find it because most of you might even have a DVD of it or a VHS of it somewhere. Amazing soundtrack too, huh? What a great film. Karate Kid, 1984. Number 7 on my list of favorite movies of last year. Not the best movies, but this one is one of the best movies of last year. From 2017, the Lego Batman movie. That is a sequel worthy of the original. The Lego movie was phenomenal, and the Lego Batman movie was almost as good. And I just love how they doubled down on the absolute absurdity of making a movie out of little Lego guys and then making it a Batman movie. Like, we take our Batman a little too seriously in this country. Little too seriously. So it was great to see it just be so darn funny. Like, it was just a relentlessly funny movie. I might have said this on the show. I grew up watching the old 60s Batman show. That was my Batman with Adam West. So I like my Batman's goofy. Do you, Ed? That's a shock. But, yeah, Lego Batman movie is fantastic. So if you liked the Lego movie and you haven't made it to if you like the Lego movie, did I say that? And you haven't seen Lego Batman, by all means, check that out because it is very, very good and also very, very funny. And on a side note, there was a second Lego movie out this year called the Lego Ninjago movie, which is based on a toy line, and there was a TV show. So that one kind of didn't do as well because that was a little skewed a little more towards kids, but the trailer looked kind of funny. My kids wanted to see it, so we went, and it is a bonkers film. It's not as good as Lego Movie or Lego Batman, but in my book, it was really close because it was just like some really strange things happened in that movie. Some really weird, funny things. There are parts where I laughed out loud hard. It is mostly just like, what is going on? Why is this happening in front of me? It's just a nuts movie. Lego Ninjago movie. Check it out. But Lego Batman movies officially on the list. Sorry, Lego Ninjago. Number 8. We're going to crank the machine back a little bit to 1936. What? Modern Times, starring the late, great Charlie Chaplin. I had never really seen a Charlie Chaplin film before. I may have seen like a short or two, but I know I had never seen one of his movies until this year. My son, who's 14, a budding young film buff, wanted to see some Charlie Chaplin, so we rented one from Netflix DVD, and I don't know why we landed on the Modern Times, but man, oh man, that was a great, great film. First of all, this is the movie that has the scene, the iconic scene, if you will, where you see Chaplin going through the giant gears of a machine. Often that's the clip that's shown to illustrate what Charlie Chaplin was. So if you know what I'm talking about, he gets sucked into a machine, and then there's like these giant cogs and gears, and he's being thread through the gears in a so comical fashion. But this is a movie. It's a comment on the at the time, the increasing industrialization of modern life, where there was more factories and machinery back in 1936. And what I found out about this later, and what I really loved about it, was this was considered the last silent movie. Even though it's 1936, it's not really silent. I mean, talking films came around. The Jazz Singer and Steamboat Willie were 1928, so this is like 8 years later. But it was done like a silent film with it wasn't really silent. It had sound effects. It has a score, but it was shot in like the silent film film rate, that the way the film went through the projector. I'm talking technical stuff, but it looks like that fast motion, like jumping up and down, and the way silent films look. And it uses title cards. Nobody talks in the movie. You do hear some dialogue, but it only ever comes from speakers, like the boss is talking to the factory over a speaker, or there's score and sound effect. I said that, didn't I? Like radio and stuff like that. So it tells a great story, and it's Charlie Chaplin in the factory. There's some hilarious bits, and then he meets a girl, and they buy a house, and he gets arrested, and it's great. It's called Modern Times. It's from 1936. It's very accessible if you think that kind of thing is not your cup of tea. This plays like a Modern Times film. It plays very well because there is talking, there is music. You're not just listening to nothing for however long this movie was, 90-some minutes or whatever. So Modern Times, 1936, another impressive entry on my list, even if it is a comedy. 2 more to go. Number 9. I love when this podcast introduces me to films. I knew about this film, but I had never seen it. And way back on episode 12, back in our first year, in an episode called Favorite Movie Lightning Round with Sam, my old high school buddy Sam had on his favorite list of movies The Sandlot from 1993. And I finally got around to watching it this year. And man, was that good. Also, it's really more about playing outside all summer than it is about baseball. I mean, there's a lot of baseball in it, but it's really just about a group of kids darting out the door every morning and just hanging out all summer long and doing stuff. And that's how I grew up, walking out the front door at like 9 a.m. and not coming back till maybe lunch, and then till dinner. Like, we were just outside all the time. So this movie really captures that spirit. And I loved that. And I thought it was really awesome. So if you've never seen The Sandlot, because you're not into baseball or whatever, you should check it out. It's really good. Also, I'm going to make a confession. The now classic phrase, "You're killing me, Smalls," didn't know it was from this film, from The Sandlot. I've heard people say it. It's on t-shirts. "You're killing me, Smalls." I thought it was from Goonies. I don't pay attention to Goonies either, so I didn't know. But it's from The Sandlot. Check it out. It's on TV, all the time. And last on my list, you knew I was... Well, I had a cartoon, an animation, the Lego Batman movie, but I had to include this film because, as you probably know from listening to the show, near and dear to my heart are cartoon characters that I grew up with, and I loved Smurfs The Lost Village from 2017. I already did a whole episode about it pretty much, but I just love that they took these classic characters and made a very elaborate and nice movie. It doesn't have a lot of the trappings of modern films with the poop jokes and rap music, although it does have both of those in there, but in moderate forms. But this was just a great... They took the characters, they went back past the Hanna-Barbera cartoon, back to the comic books, and really used that as their inspiration, and just made a really nice movie. Again, I talked about it on a podcast. I forget which episode it is, but it has Smurfs in the title, so you can find it if you want to hear me ramble on about that. But just my favorite part of it was they made those two other Smurf movies where the Smurfs get sucked out of Smurfland and they go to New York and they look realistic or whatever. And this movie had the nuts to just be all animation, and it was all cartoon, and it looked like a cartoon, and it was, even though it's, CG, it just was like an old cartoon, and I thought it was great, and I had to put him on the list. It made $197 million worldwide. Only $45 million of that came from the U.S., so probably not looking at the franchise, any more of the franchise, because the other two Smurf films made buku bucks. This one did a little less. So that's Smurfs The Lost Village. I probably called it Magic Flute, didn't I, somewhere? Smurfs The Lost Village 2017. It's from Sony Animation. That is also currently streaming on Netflix. I also wanted to mention another film that had classic characters in it, but I didn't quite slide that into this episode or into my list. But hear me out. I had no idea they were making a new Jetsons movie this year. It went straight to DVD, and it's another wrestling thing like Scooby-Doo and the Flintstones, but it was called Jetsons and WWE Robo WrestleMania, and it was actually really, really well done. Solid story, respect to the characters, loved it. It was excellent. So if you're digging through a bargain bin and come across it, Jetsons and WWE Robo WrestleMania. It's got wrestling in it. It's got Jetsons in it. Hey, that's the list right there. What are some of your favorite movies that you saw in 2017? Let us know on Facebook or Twitter. Shout out to us at WYF Movie Podcast. Let us know what you think. Find us on Facebook. Let us know about the episode. Tell us what were some of your favorite movies from the past year. And hey, before we go, real quick, I want you to make 2 New Year's resolutions this year. 1, make a resolution to watch more movies. And number 2, make a resolution to make What's Your Favorite Movie your favorite podcast. Out of all the others, this one is your favorite. Until next time, my friends, this is Ed South saying it's khaki wishes and cookie dreams. So long.